3.5 months down the road. And I have to admit that today I feel more hopeful than I have for the past 2 or 3 months when we have been talking about ceasefires, no ceasefires, peace agreements, or no peace agreements. And this time round, it really looks like the ring is within reach. And I would like to share with you some tweets that have come out, not just from President Donald Trump, who has the habit of kind of tweeting whenever he wants, but this time tweets have come which have bolstered President Trump in many ways. And it's sort of interesting that President Trump found the need to retweet or repost tweets that are put out by Iranian Foreign Minister Dr. Abbas Araghchi and Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. So without further ado, let me jump straight into it and tell you that a deal is likely to be signed between the United States and Iran. The word deal is also a bit of a misnomer. It is actually a memorandum of understanding, a document that will be electronically signed. So there's going to be no meeting in one room. America and Iran will not sit down face to face and sign a document and hand it over to each other and sign it together. This will be electronically signed and will be then binding upon both the United States and Iran. The deal is complex, there's no doubt about it. And people are unhappy with some of the elements that have been put down in this MOU, including in Iran. This is not just something that American hawks are objecting to. Iran hawks are objecting. The people of Iran are objecting. And I'm going to tell you more about that. But first of all, let's just start out with the most encouraging tweet that came from the Pakistan Prime Minister, in which he says, "We are closer to a peace deal than ever before. With finalization likely expected in the next 24 hours, Pakistan is preparing for the electronic signing of the peace deal immediately after, followed by technical level talks next week." Then he goes on to thank the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran for their ongoing commitment during the negotiations. And he then said he extended sincere appreciation to our brothers in the region, which is acknowledging the role that has been played by some of the other countries in the region, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and others. And then he said, "We are confident that this historic peace deal will form a strong foundation for lasting peace." Amen to that. And of course, this came right on the heels of a tweet that was put out on Saturday by the Iranian Foreign Minister, Dr. Araghchi, in which he said, "The Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding has never been closer. Pending its finalization, the media should refrain from entering speculation about its content. In line with our responsible and transparent approach, all details will be shared with the public in due course." Now, this is a fairly simple tweet in that respect, where he's asking people not to speculate. But of course we're going to speculate. Everybody speculated. And then from the chief negotiator of Iran, Dr. M.B. Ghalibaf, came a very simple 3-line tweet. Dr. Ghalibaf says, "Commitments made must be commitments kept. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. For the close deal ahead, there is no other way. You reap what you sow." Tough words from Dr. Ghalibaf, and the Irani Foreign Ministry, of course, did also put out a word today saying that it is not Dr. Araghchi who's been structuring the deal, it is Dr. Ghalibaf, and he is the chief architect of this deal as far as Iran is concerned, and Dr. Araghchi has been part of it, definitely, but he went on Irani TV yesterday, and he spoke in Persian at length. And as and when during this discussion, I will add in little bits and portions of what he said in Persian, because I think you'd like to hear it. And it has been subtitled by somebody on Twitter who agreed to give me permission to use that. So he's translated it, and so we'll be able to share that with you. Now, this deal is not being welcomed in many places. And the one place which is absolutely hostile to this deal is obviously Israel. So it's never going to be any kind of agreement that everybody is going to be happy with. That's just simply not possible. When you have multiple parties to an agreement, then everybody will try to get the best agreement possible for their side. And obviously, then there is some level of compromise. Unfortunately, people went out on a limb. This has been going on for so long. And everybody had their own domestic agendas coming in as well. And that has really been at the crux of a lot of the misunderstandings that have taken place during this entire process. One thing that I'm actually very grateful for, and I have to say this, that Pakistan did not give up. At the worst of times, when Israel and Iran started going at it directly at each other over Israel's invasion of South Lebanon and then hitting South Beirut, we saw that it again looked really, really critical. Then we had an American Apache a helicopter being downed, and America responded really aggressively. And so it just didn't seem clear what was going on and why. But now that we're looking at it, that quiet diplomacy was going on. Pakistan was in touch with the United States, with Iran, and I'm told that Qatar also was in touch with Pakistan and Iran at the same time, presumably with the United States as well. And at the same time, Iranian Foreign Minister Dr. Araghchi was in contact with foreign ministers around the world. He was keeping people updated, and as far as we know, the details of this 1.5-page, 2-page memorandum of understanding has been shared with the ambassadors of China and Russia in Tehran today by the deputy foreign minister. So Russia and China have also been taken into confidence. And it's interesting. I don't want to speculate too much about what's in the deal because I don't really know, but we can definitely look at the main points that will have come up for discussion. Obviously, the American side was very, very keen on ensuring that the United States gets its way on Iran's nuclear file, which is zero enrichment and no nuclear weapons. It looks like the nuclear enrichment demand has been dropped, but we don't know that for a fact because that was something that Iran said that they were not going to give up. The other main sticking point was the Strait of Hormuz, and that also looks like it has been addressed. And the sequence that is going to come out is going to be really important. Now, in that interview that Foreign Minister Araghchi did with an Iranian television channel yesterday, he talked about that. He talked about the fact that this is a two-phase approach. In the first phase, certain things will happen. That is a 60-day period that has been defined.
نکته که باید عرض بکنم این هست در این مذاکرات که منجر به خاتمه جنگ خواهد شد دو مرحله پیش بینی شده. مرحله اول یک یادداشت تفاهمی هست که بین ایران و آمریکا امضا میشه. بعد مذاکرات برای مرحله دوم شروع میشه و بعد در مرحله دوم ما یک توافق نهایی خواهیم داشت. موضوع بحث هسته‌ای رو ما موکول کردیم به به توافق نهایی. به دلایل مختلفی که واقعا در شرایط حاضر امکان بحثش نبود، خواسته هایی که اونها داشتن به هیچ وجه قابل پذیرش نبود. لذا ما موضوعات دیگری که امکان توافق در مورد اونها وجود داشت رو آوردیم در مرحله اول. موضوع هسته‌ای رو موکول کردیم به مرحله دوم که خب مرحله سخت‌تری هست و 60 روز مذاکره براش پیش بینی شده.
And then a second phase which is going to be the technical talks and all the other details. And he was a little vague on this, but I kind of got the impression that he was saying that the nuclear file will come up after that second phase. Now, this could be something that I am missing in translation, really, because it would be unfair of me to say that because I'm really looking at a translation of the Persian in what he was saying. And this is so sensitive that I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say that, yes, this is what's going to happen.
در مرحله دوم یا توافق نهایی بحث هسته‌ای در کنار بحث رفع تحریم‌های ایران و یکی دو تا موضوع دیگه که حالا سر فرصت خواهم گفت بررسی خواهد شد و توافق نهایی صورت خواهد گرفت.
Now there are two other things that Iran was absolutely insisting on. One was the lifting of sanctions on Iran's exports of petrol and petrochemical derivatives as well as oil. And they also, of course, wanted the unfreezing of Iranian assets. Now, in that respect, we have now confirmed report from Reuters, so it has still been denied by the United Arab Emirates, but the United Arab Emirates apparently has given $3 billion to Iran in cash. A UAE delegation flew to Tehran over the weekend and did present, well, we would assume that they were handing over that $3 billion in cash. This is not the UAE bribing Iran. Okay, let's get that straight. I've seen this on social media. I'm seeing this everywhere that, oh, the UAE is bribing Iran. No, this is Iranian money that was held in a UAE bank or multiple UAE banks. And now the Reuters report suggests that upwards of maybe 10, maybe even $20 billion may be handed over to Iran in terms of frozen assets. Now, we also have the Mehr News Agency out of Iran reporting that Qatar is going to hand over $6 billion of frozen Iranian assets and have also committed another $6 billion in oil credits or any credit line. It's a loan, so Iran can pretty much use it for what it wants. And there, obviously, we have all known about the $300 billion reconstruction fund, which U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at one point said would be used for reconstruction in the Gulf countries. I don't know how that's going to work, right? But he also said that the frozen assets would be used for reconstruction in the Gulf countries, and that's illegal. They can't do that. So reconstruction, would it be all the $300 billion would be all used in Iran and the GCC, or would it just be for Iran? We don't know, and that's not something, I think that's not a hill that anybody wants to climb right now. But here is the one very, very crucial thing that Israel had been demanding, and it has not come up for discussion. And as far as I know, it's not in the MOU, and Iran is not going to let it be in any memorandum of understanding. And that is Iran's domestic conventional weapons, ballistic missiles, and drone program. Iran is like, that's ours. I mean, we'll do what we want for conventional forces, and nobody gets to dictate how many missiles or drones or anti-artillery or anti-missile systems that we put out. And yeah, that no country lets any other country interfere with its defense programs or its aggressive military options, so long as they're not nuclear. When nuclear comes into the equation, things change. But conventional weapons, no, it doesn't. And the other thing that is going to upset Israel a lot is that there has been no stated mention, as far as we know so far, that Iran would in any way be compelled to stop its support for what it calls the axis of resistance, which includes Hamas in Gaza and the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen and multiple groups in Iraq. So that has also apparently not been mentioned in that. Now, one of the things that we have talked about from the very beginning on this, and Iran is still talking about it. And as I mentioned, Dr. Ghalibaf's post, again saying, you know, you can't change this now, no excuses, this is it. And because the United States has repeatedly changed the wording, changed certain things, now this document is the final document, and it will be electronically signed. Now, here's an interesting question. Why would it be signed electronically? Well, one of the main things that I am considering is that is there some effort maybe to make sure that Iran's new supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, will be signing this document on behalf of Iran. I don't know that. There is some speculation that that is one of the reasons why it might be an electronic signature. Otherwise, it will be signed by Dr. Ghalibaf, because he is the chief negotiator. And why is it an electronic signature? Well, at this point, I think Iran does not want to commit to flying out its delegation and have things collapse once again, like they did during the Islamabad talks. That could be a reason. And the third reason, of course, would simply be security. At this point, because we know that Israel is so hostile to this agreement, and we know that President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have literally argued over this, have insulted each other over this, that Israel has not really accepted this agreement. And this is going to be crucial because the top line is ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon. That has been there from the very first day. In previous shows, I have read out to you the tweets that were put out by Shehbaz Sharif, including Lebanon. That has always been Iran's consistent position. And at that time, Israeli forces had not even invaded South Lebanon at that time. Now, I want to read to you a tweet from the Israeli Defense Minister, Katz. And it's disturbing, to put it mildly. So this is the Israeli Defense Minister, and he wrote the tweet in Hebrew, and X has translated it for us in English. The U.S. President is currently leading towards an agreement with Iran out of a view of American interests, including the shared interest with Israel to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. And we expect him to uphold this principle, etc., etc. Additional principles in the realm of missiles and terrorist proxies. That's not happening. Together, we have inflicted severe blows on Iran, yada, yada, yada. Israel must ensure that in the future we have the ability to act independently to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. No, No, that's not going to happen. Israel definitively does not have the right to go into Iran and act at will. And then he goes on to say Israel will not withdraw from the security zones in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. The IDF will continue to defend our borders and our citizens from the peak of Mount Hermon, the mountains of Lebanon, the areas of our land, etc., 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 and most of the territory of Gaza. Now, this is extremely disturbing because, as he goes on to say, the security doctrine is sharp and clear. We act against both near and distant threats and strive for decisive outcomes rather than compromises and concessions. Much is at stake. We are determined to continue leading a firm security policy. And then he goes on to thank the IDF, etc., etc. Now, coming from the Israeli defense minister, this strikes at the very heart of the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. And at this point, Iran is assuming, demanding that the United States ensure that not only does Israel stop attacking Lebanon, it wants IDF forces to move out of South Lebanon and stop attacking other cities. And in the past few days alone, the death toll in Lebanon has risen. 5 people were killed on Saturday. And on Saturday night, Israel issued an order for evacuation of another 20 villages. So their campaign, their military objectives, whatever they are continuing in full force in Lebanon. Yet this agreement is going ahead. And Iran said that it may not get signed on Sunday, but I think that it will be signed on Sunday, U.S. time. So it could be Pakistan or Iran time, maybe Monday, but it will be Sunday probably. So we have to keep in mind that there is like a 10-hour difference between the United States and Iran. So, and as Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has been very clear that it is going to be Sunday. So let's just give and take a couple of hours, in terms of time zones and stuff. And I don't think we need to worry too much about that. What we do need to worry about, there are so many people hoping and praying that this deal doesn't go ahead. People in Iran, the hardliners, there's one MP who said this is worse deal than the JPCOA. Did I get that right? No, it's JCPOA. I always get that wrong. He says it's a worse deal than that. There are some Iranian citizens who are protesting outside the foreign ministry in Tehran, saying that this deal, and they're saying insulting things towards the hapless, at this point, foreign minister, who's sort of like, yeah, I'm here, but it's actually Dr. Ghalibaf who's doing this. And it is definitely going to be difficult for the United States. We know that earlier when any kind of discussion was mooted, the Hawks came in hard and fast to try and stop it, and they partially succeeded. This time they've been slightly quieter, but I think when the actual details start coming out, that there may be more hostility to it. But once it's signed, then we'll know exactly what is going on. Now, selling this whole agreement, memorandum of understanding, has been hard for all the parties concerned. Predominantly, I think the United States has been more under pressure. President Trump has been under more pressure from his own base and from the Hawks, the Iran Hawks in his administration. Iran is now suddenly, we are saying that there's some resistance to the agreement, but Iran is a fairly authoritarian state in that respect. And I think we'll see that once Ayatollah Mustafa Khamenei puts his signature on it, or at least gives his blessing to this, then the objections or the protests will die down. But it's interesting, actually, that Irani citizens are now objecting, which I did not expect. Now, President Donald Trump, of course, is compelled to tweet. I mean, a post on Truth Social. He can't help himself. It's a really long post. I'm not going to read out all of it. But again, you can tell what's on his mind, because the first thing he says is Barack Hussein Obama's deal with Iran, the JCPOA, was an easy, beautiful, smooth road to a nuclear weapon, which would have led to Iran getting a nuclear weapon, etc., etc. No, it didn't, because Iran kept saying, well, we don't want a nuclear weapon. But Iran did enrich up to 60% after Donald Trump pulled out of the JCPOA. We won't get into the past. What's the past is past. So he, again, is reinforcing a wall to no nuclear weapon. In fact, they no longer want a nuclear weapon, nor will they have one. Yeah, President Trump, they've been saying that for years. Nothing has changed on that front. But anyway, as I said, let it go. And then, of course, he is concerned about Obama's payments to Iran, which we have talked about before, that the pallets of cash that were sent to Iran, which was actually Iran's money that the United States was holding illegally. So, of course, he talks about, unlike Obama's hundreds of billions of dollars in payments to them, including $1.7 billion. Well, it was only $1.7 billion, but again, details. In green, cold cash, no money will exchange hands. No money will exchange hands. Okay, well, the Gulf countries are kind of going to unfreeze all the assets. So it's not exchanging. Money is not exchanging. Iran is simply going to get its frozen assets back from the organizations and banking entities that are holding that money. It's not in the U.S. Treasury. It's never been in the U.S. Treasury. And so on that front, we will let that go. At the appropriate time, when all is calm, we can go in and get the nuclear dust buried deep beneath the powerful sunken granite mountains, thanks to our beautiful B-2 bombers, etc., etc., etc. Okay, we still don't know that yet. Iran is leaving that, deferring that for the final phase. But again, this is what all this troubles me. We look forward to working with Iran and the entire Middle East long into the future. Hopefully, this process will all work out quickly, easily, and smoothly. If it doesn't, we have the ultimate alternative, hopefully never to be used again. President Trump, you almost had me till that last line. It's not necessary. Please stop threatening nuclear annihilation. The whole world is kind of fed up with it. Let's just not go down that road. It's not needed. We are on the cusp of finalizing a deal, and it would be a really good idea to stop threatening everybody at the same time. Where do we go from here? It's not going to be easy. There is some discussion that the technical talks and other aspects of what will happen in the next 60 days will be happening in Islamabad. It's possible. Iran definitely feels more comfortable in Islamabad in terms of the fact that Pakistan has shepherded through this entire process for the past 2 months and is intimately familiar with all the negotiations and the back and forth and the agreements and the disagreements that have happened. So Pakistan is very equipped to say, no, this is what you agreed to, and no, that is not what so-and-so agreed to. So there is that mediation role which will come in. It's a lot of people dismiss Pakistan as saying, oh, Pakistan is just a courier service. No, we are not a courier service. We have been keeping this process up and running. And even when it looked really bleak, Pakistan did not give up. And even at the time that Iran and Israel decided that they were going to attack each other, Pakistan's interior minister was physically in Tehran when Israel started attacking. So our people have even put their lives on the line for this. And I would actually be personally more comfortable with the negotiations and discussions taking place in Pakistan, because I know that the Iranian delegation, the diplomats, the entire technical teams, everybody who's going to be involved in these technical talks need security, because Israel has assassinated diplomats in the past, they have assassinated negotiators in the past, and they have killed Iran's nuclear scientists in the past. So Pakistan is, I think, the one country where I am, God willing and touch wood, I hope that the Iranian delegation would be secured as to the best of Pakistan's ability, and we are very good at that. Again, touch wood, because obviously anything can go wrong, but it's not going to be easy for Israel or anybody to quote-unquote launch missiles at Pakistan, because Pakistan, at the end of the day, is the only nuclear-armed state. My dogs are getting really excited about this, because you can hear them shouting, yes, 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 we're here for security too. So yes, they are my dogs, and they are very into security issues. But very importantly, Pakistan is the only nuclear-armed country in all of West Asia and the Middle East. In South Asia, of course, there is India, but in West Asia and the Middle East, it's Pakistan. So anybody trying to attack the Iranian delegation in Pakistan would get short shrift. And I absolutely am very confident that Pakistan will go out of its way to provide more security than would be for many other events. I've covered dozens of international summits all over the world. and the kind of security that, and in Islamabad as well. You know, there have been Organization of Islamic Conferences, conference summits that have covered there. There have been SARC summits in Pakistan that have covered in Islamabad. So I know what kind of security is put in place when there are heads of state or foreign ministers of different countries visiting, and the security that was put in place for the Islamabad talks was unprecedented. I have never ever seen anything like that, and it was so intense that. And I would assume that if technical talks go ahead in Islamabad, whether they will be consistent for several days, or whether they will meet and break, or teams will come and go, we don't know. All of this is going to get worked out. Today, I can only say one thing. I am incredibly, incredibly hopeful. I hope and pray that nothing goes wrong. As they say, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. At this point, the spoilers seem to have been put in their place. They are complaining. I hope at this point that Iran holds the course, because Israel is going to do everything possible in Lebanon to trigger Iran into walking out. And that's where Iran now has to trust that the world community will also be stepping in, and the world community has to. Israel is a rogue state. There's no other way getting around this. The whole world wants this peace agreement. The whole world wants this war to end. The whole world wants to get back onto track and stop a potential recession in its tracks. Israel is the only holdout. And at this point, we are going to have to see whether Israel is going to play ball or not. And if Israel thinks that it can go ahead with independent actions, well, you know, that's the interesting thing. I want to play here for you a video of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Iran is close to a weapons deal.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly. If they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
So that was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claiming that that Iran is on the verge of developing a nuclear weapon. Been saying this for 20 years, and Iran has been saying for equally long, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We've signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. We have not had any desire to develop a nuclear weapon, and given that we have now gotten a good look at Iran's technological capabilities in terms of not just its missile program, but I was actually looking at this amazing, beautiful state-of-the-art cancer hospital that they have managed to complete and inaugurate in the middle of the war. It's absolutely stunning, and it looks beautiful. And so if Iran wanted to make a nuclear weapon, they would have. They would not have just made one, they would have made several. So I think it is right now a pretext for Israel to keep claiming that Iran is going to develop a nuclear weapon. If, as I keep saying, if they wanted to, they would have. And if Israel is going to make this a pretext for attacking Iran repeatedly, this time I would really hope that the United States is not going to come riding to the rescue. Because last year's June war was instigated by Israel, and then the United States joined in. This time, the war started with Israel and the United States, but the Europeans did not join in. This time round, if Israel decides to go to war against Iran, I would hope that other countries would stand with Iran, and European nations and the United States would consider placing sanctions on Israel. Here's to peace, here's to hope, and here's to a happy ending to this whole situation.